Good evening, ladies and gentlemen there. If you've got a cell phone, could you turn it to vibrate there so just in case there won't interrupt anybody working with their please. We begin this meeting to acknowledge that we are on the land that has been inhabited by Anishinaabe nations. We would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Sagamok and Anishinaabe, and we would like to give thanks for sharing this land. Whereas there is a quorum of council present, the time is 6 p.m., be it resolved this regular meeting be open for business at the Massey and District Community Center and Arena, and that the minutes of the regular meeting of May 11, 2022 be approved. And further, that in accordance with Section 228-4 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, Ann Whalen is hereby appointed as acting clerk for the purpose of this meeting. Can I have a mover and second? Dale and Patrick, all in favor? Carried. Well, second, are you just about ready or? Roxanne and Mark is doing our financial auditor.
Perfect. Everybody can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, good evening, everybody. Hope everybody is well, and I think it's... No? Sorry. Still not? Oh. Better? Somewhat.
You can take off your mask.
I was going to say, it'll help if I have this on. So good evening. It's a pleasure for us to be here tonight. We've been appointed in 2020, and unfortunately, we're never able to meet council face to face. So it really is nice for us to be here tonight and actually finally present in person the audited financial statements for the municipality. So good evening. And for those behind me, I apologize. My back is to you, but we'll proceed. So with regards to, I believe you've all received a draft copy of the financial statements. So with regards to our independent auditor's report, we have again this year issued a clean audit opinion. I will not go through the full audit report and read everything, but I will highlight what our opinion paragraphs are, and that is what you're seeing on the screen in front. So we have audited the consolidated financial statement of the corporation of the township of Sables-Spanish Rivers, which comprise a consolidated statement of financial position as of December 31st, 2021, and the consolidated statements of operations, accumulated surplus, cash flows, and change in net financial assets for the year then ended, and notes to the consolidated financial statements, including a summary of significant accounting policies. In our opinion, the accompanying consolidated financial statements present fairly, in all material respects, the consolidated financial position of the corporation of the township of Sables-Spanish Rivers as at December 31st, 2021, and its consolidated results of operation and its consolidated cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. The independent audit report also now has different sections that talks about what the basis of our opinion and how we conducted our audit. It also has a section that talks about the responsibility of management and those charged with governance for the consolidated financial statements, as well as a section that goes over what the auditor's responsibilities are with regards to these financial statements. We have dated these statements today in anticipation of the draft audited statements being approved by council tonight. So I will turn to page 1 of the consolidated financial statement, which is your statement of financial position. So this represents your assets, financial assets, liability, as well as your non-financial assets at one specific point in time at December 31st, 2021. So with regards to your financial assets, you have a total of 10,140,245, which is comprised of different assets, including predominantly your cash at 6.4 million. You have taxes receivable at 200,000. We have accounts receivables from a federal, provincial, and other, of which federal is 448,000, provincial 23,000, and other at 191,000. We have term deposits of 2.8 million, and then tax sale properties for 52,000, giving us the financial assets at 10.1 million. With regards to our liabilities, we have a total of 2.7 million. We have accounts payable and accrued liabilities that make up this amount of 875,000. Temporary loan at 2,400. We have deferred revenues at 126,000. Deferred revenue with regards to obligatory reserve funds of 454. Municipal debt 499,000, and landfill closure and closed closure of 772,000 for the total liability of 2.7. Our non-financial assets, it's composed of a total of 15.7, of which tangible capital assets of 15.6 million, inventory of 52,000, and prepaid expense of 6,000, giving us net accumulated surplus of 23.1 million. If we now turn to page 2, which is your statement of operations and accumulated surplus, so this represents the revenue and expenses of the township for the period ended December 31st, 2021, so January 1st to December 31st. We have revenues of total of 7.6 million, of which net taxation is 4.5 million, government transfers 2.3, user charges 659, and other of 177,000. Our expenses in this statement are grouped into the major service lines instead of by the nature of the type of expense. So in total, we have expenses of 6.5 million, general government being 727,000, protection services 1.2 million, transportation services 1.9, environmental services 873,000, health services 975, social and family services 244,000, recreation and cultural services 537, and then planning and development at 96,000 for the total expenses of 6.5. Our excess of revenue over expenses before other is 1,056,000. Other being government transfers related to capital is at 839,000, leaving us with excess of revenue over expenditure, so a surplus in the current year of 1,896,127. We had started the year with an accumulated surplus of 21,225,000, finishing the year with 23,121,000. With regards to the rest of the financial statements, I'm not necessarily going to go in detail unless there's something specific in the notes that you would like to see. The notes have not changed. There is nothing new this year compared to the financial statements you would have received in the past, so the notes are very comparable. But I would entertain any questions if there's something specific with regards to the notes that you would like further explanation. Or if there's any questions on the numbers that we've seen. So this is part of the presentation that we do, is we've looked at the draft financial statements, and if there's any question, we'll definitely be able to answer, especially with help of management. But there's also another part of our presentation that we'd like to go over, and that's looking at benchmarking information as to how your township compares to municipalities that are within a certain geography, just to see how you fare compared to other municipalities, as well as also how you fare with regards to ministry benchmarking. So if there's no question for me, I'll turn it over to Mark. And once he's done his presentation, he'll also, there's always some housekeeping that we need to do, so Mark will take care of that as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Roxanne. Good evening, everyone. So as Austin mentioned, we do have a benchmarking.
Turn the volume up.
We have a benchmarking slideshow that we present to council that we have for the past few years. And just a little bit of background information as to how we develop this. So annually, all municipalities are required to submit a financial information return. So all that information is available on the ministry's website. It's all public. So we take some of that information for the past few years just to compare yourselves to how you've done over the past 5-6 years, as well as compare the township to some of its neighboring municipalities just for some information. So with that, just a couple of quick notes. The slides on the right would be 2020 information, just because that is what is currently available at this time. Financial information returns are only required to be filed at the end of May every year, so that is the comparison that we're able to do. However, on the slides, or on the graphs on the left rather, that does include 2021 information for your township. So the first graph that we have up on screen represents the tax arrears ratio. So essentially any taxes receivable less allowances for uncollectible taxes as a percentage of taxes levied. And what this might indicate is if there's a high percentage, it might indicate some collection issues. But as you can see, certainly not the case for your township. Collection is very strong. The lower the percentage, the better the situation essentially. And we even include the risk levels that the ministry considers as well when looking at this information. So anything below 10% is considered low risk, which the township falls itself in that category. Next slide. With regards to net assets, or net financial assets rather, percentage of revenue. So these are your net financial assets, so essentially your assets plus your liabilities as percent of your own source revenues. What this might indicate is that there's a high negative percentage, might indicate a lack of resources available for future needs. So some municipalities might find themselves in a net debt position, whereas your township finds itself in a net financial asset position. So again, very positive. You can see on the right, basically anything in green. So between yourself, your township, and your neighboring municipalities, all considered low risk in the eyes of the ministry. For the total reserves ratio, so these are your reserves as a percentage of operating expenses, and this would essentially indicate how much money is set aside for future needs or possible contingencies. And again, anything in green would reflect a low risk rating, and once again, the township is in a positive position in this regard. So every year since 2018, total reserves ratio has steadily been increasing in a positive manner. So well above the low risk threshold established by the ministry. And this would also demonstrate the township's ability to self-finance some significant investments, either in tangible capital assets or other infrastructure. The cash ratio is essentially cash as a percentage of current liabilities. So this would indicate the township's ability to address short-term liabilities with liquid funds. So although there is a drop from 2019, again, well above the ministry's thresholds, so definitely considered a low risk here as well. The debt servicing ratio are essentially payments on debt divided by your total revenue. So a different way to look at this would be how much of each dollar raised is spent on debt. And we do see a decline over the past couple of years. So as the township does not incur new debt, that debt gets paid down. So no surprises with regards to the past several years. And once again, in the green, low risk, but well below the threshold established by the ministry. The asset consumption ratio is essentially demonstrating the proportion of your physical assets that are used up and no longer functional. Or in other words, we determine, or there's an estimated useful life to your assets, your buildings, your vehicles, your equipment, and where you find yourselves along that lifespan. So although you can see here there is some moderate risk levels in this regard, and that is very comparable to your neighboring municipalities as well. Where you're slightly above that 50% of that life. That being said, all municipalities currently are in developing their asset management plan. which would go much further in depth than we're able to present in this graph. But it is something that all municipalities are currently looking into to ensure that they're set up for their future needs. The operating surplus ratio is essentially your surplus divided by own source revenue. So this would indicate any ability to cover operational costs and have funds available for other purposes, such as debt payments or putting into reserves. And again, you can see an uptick over the past several years with regards to this ratio. And again, compared to the neighboring municipalities and considering the township, all the neighboring all at very low risk in the industry size. I know I think went through that fairly quickly, but were there any questions or comments with regards to that benchmark?
So you comparing this to all the North Shore and the island, or who are you comparing this to?
So we selected a few municipalities either around the area or of similar size. So we kind of try to get some comparisons that kind of make sense. So we do have a few, a little hard for me to see from back here, but I believe we have St. Charles, French River, I believe.
Baldwin and Aaron.
Baldwin and Aaron were some of the ones that we had selected. But if ever you would like to see additional comparisons, very simple for us to add that or remove some of these other municipalities that people refer to as. Any other questions? If no other questions, as Roxanne mentioned, we do have just one last piece of our presentation. It's just with regards to our audit findings. So annually, we're required to have that discussion with those charged with governance, just to go over how our audit went and if we had come across anything to bring to your attention. Won't go into details. I do have my notes here, but for the most part, responsibilities are addressed in the independent auditor's reports. You do have a very good breakdown of what the various responsibilities are there. In particular, probably the more important one is with regards to the financial statements. So it is management's responsibility to present and prepare the financial statements in all material respects in accordance with the county standards. Our responsibility as the auditor is to express an opinion on those financial statements. And yourselves as a member of council is to act as an objective, independent liaison between the two parties. Our audit process is typically broken out into 4 different categories. So first of all, in the initial planning stage, from there we develop our audit plan, execute it, and then report and assess performance, which is the stage we find ourselves in right now. As far as our audit approach, we determined based on our understanding of internal controls that reliance would not be placed on the system of internal controls. So we adopted what we call a substantive audit approach. And all that means is we go down to physical documentation to support the numbers in your financial statements, whether that be invoices, payroll timesheets, contracts, things of that nature. That is not to say that controls are not in place within the township. It's just a decision we make early on how we approach and what we determine as the most efficient way to be able to provide an opinion on these statements. With regards to audit risks and results, there were no significant audit risks that we identified. No new accounting policies were adopted during the year. When we conduct our audit, we do keep in mind certain key estimates. So with regards to the township, key estimates in these statements would include the useful life of intangible capital assets and related amortization. The landfill closure and post-closure costs are a key estimate as well as any allowance for doubtful accounts or doubtful taxes receivable. With regards to materiality, so in the past years, you may recall us discussing or explaining what that materiality represents. So we do determine a threshold annually for our audit as to what would represent a significant amount that would impact the decisions of council or end users of these statements going forward. And this is based on typical audit standards. In particular for the township, we use 3% of expenses, which amounted to $196,000. So all that to say that if we did come across any errors or issues, we would ask management to make those corrections to be reflected in your statements up to $196,000 before it would impact our opinion. All this to say, we do additional work on your audited financial statements. We do not ignore anything below that threshold. We do look at smaller amounts to ensure that we don't surpass that, and we do discuss those with management. If we come across any corrections that are not made, we do report that to you as well. I can tell you there we're well below $25,000 as far as numbers that may not be reflected in your annual financial statements for 2021. Those may be reflected in 2022. As far as independence is concerned, so we are required annually to express our independence of the township. So I am confirming that myself, all members of our audit team, and Baker Tilly SNT is independent of the township of Sables-Spanish. A few other quick matters. All related party transactions are properly reflected in your financial statements. No significant transactions were entered into that you should be aware of. No significant matters were discussed with management. We do ask management to provide us with a signed written letter of representation annually, which we will coordinate with your management team. Internal control recommendations, we do issue annually a management letter with some matters to bring to your attention. That being said, there are no significant matters that we wish to bring up this evening. Others, so no instances of legal acts, fraud, intentional misstatements or errors were noted during the audit, and no instances of non-compliance of laws and regulations were identified during our audit. And we typically take this opportunity to ask of council. So we have not come across anything for our audit. Is any member of council aware of anything that should be brought to our attention as the auditors? Seeing as there's none, the second question that we typically ask of council, because we are responsible within our audit reports for these financial statements up to today, up to the date of approval, have there been any events since January 1st, 2022, or more in particular since our audit fieldwork that we would have done back in April that could have either an impact on our audit or the statements that we should be aware of? Seeing as there's none, unless there are any other questions, that essentially concludes our presentation.
Is there anyone else have any questions there for Roxanne or Martha? Long 2 years before we put a face to
I know, because we would see just like, or we'd see Ruth, and that was, we couldn't see all of council, so it was a pleasure to be able to see all of you.
Thank you, Roxanne and Martha. Hearing no questions there, be it resolved that Baker Tilly be thanked for the presentation of our 2021 draft financial statements here. Can I move over to seconder? Kevin, there, and Cheryl, all in favor? Carried. Danny, do you want to come forward here, please? Thank you.
Good day to the mayor and to the council and to our happy taxpayers.
Danny, if you want to take your mask off when you're talking there, you can be clear for the people behind you there.
On April 13th, I approached council to deal with our trailer bylaws that got enforced on my property. I haven't heard from council. Nobody wants to talk about it. But lots of people are being affected with this bylaw. The thing is, the bylaw enforced is because of a complaint. And the complaint is, you don't come to the person who owns the property, you went to the people and evicted all the people in the trailers, which is right. That is not right. You haven't dealt with this properly. We're just trying to survive. We're not making a fortune here. And everybody knows that. All these bylaws are hurting us, very much so. Look like we're getting dictated from the upper class. And we see that in the world, everywhere. Elon Musk, Bill Gates, council, We're picking and choosing our neighbors now. We've all lived here for many years. These bylaws should not come into effect to us. May 2-4 weekend came and it left. I have 0 people on 6 sites. But as I look to the sites beside me, they're full of trailers. The bylaw officer did not evict the rest of them. This is not proper. You know that. So I'm asking council, on April 13th, I asked you to come to the table and resolve this. Did council actually talk about it? And what is your result?
The result was that it was part of the official plan, which was passed as a bylaw years ago.
You passed a bylaw in-house, not even to the public.
No, I'm sure it was in public. It was before my time on council, but I won't shy away from it.
I can back this up to 2002, when I started this project. I started a project to get to my property at the waterfront. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to get here. I put rail crossings in. I approached council. I have a letter. I approached council to repair the road at Wayland Road. They did not have any money. Nothing. I got a letter back. Go ahead. I took my money. I got to the rail crossing. I put a rail crossing in. There was no restrictions on my property. None. And that actually, you guys, you had to make restrictions though. You did. And then with this bylaw isn't even legal. You're just making bylaws for money and to dictate who lives beside you. This is not proper. As the people will speak, they will decide. This is not the way we should go ahead. We have to all live in the same world. Everybody knows that. If you have a complaint, call the OPP. You don't come evict all the people. I don't understand. And I think council needs to really think about this, because a lot of people spend a lot of money in this township every weekend to go to their trailer sites. These people are from Sudbury, they're from Toronto, they're from everywhere. If you impose these bylaws, you will hurt yourself and your fellow business people. Very much so. But why would we make a bylaw like this? Why? Nobody really knows now. Well, I don't think this is proper. I think the next thing I have on my agenda is snow removal on municipal roads. In seasonal road, it's a problem. Whalen Road, there's seasonal camps there. They plow the township road. I don't care about township road. When they get to my property, they open the gates, they plow with the gates open. Now I gotta contend with that all winter. It's not nice. One lane, your road's getting deteriorated, and so are mine. You know, I can understand if somebody's working there, but if somebody just wants to go to his camp for one weekend or 2 weekends a year, it's costing the taxpayer and the landowners a lot of grief and a lot of money.
Who's doing the plowing?
Seasonal residents
On your property?
on my property and your township property. No, it's conflict. It's a lot of conflict here. OPP are called because I gotta go close my gate with this much snow on them. No, we don't need these problems. It's seasonal. We know there's seasonal cottages there. Take your snowmobile. Take your snowshoes. I think we need to really get back to the main topic is trailer site. We know that. So what did you decide? You just gonna push the bylaw?
It was discussed, and I thought maybe we should have some kind of provision for having a trailer on vacant land for a certain fee.
We already pay taxes. We paid enough
We
taxes.
pay taxes on vacant land, which is a lot different. If you have a trailer there and you have a fire, are you just gonna let it burn?
Probably will.
Well, that's not what we.
If you're gonna come after me, you're gonna come after everyone else. You have to. Your bylaw officer did not do his job. I'll give you how many pictures in this here where them trailers were left there. And I can see them from my residence at my waterfront. You can't pick on people. Can't do that. I'm not gonna mention any names, but you cross private property to get there, you open the gate, and the bylaw officer is a good friend of the guy who actually made the complaint. Don't do this to people. It's a real small world when we get to the end here. Not very nice, is it? No.
So the explanation to me from the clerk at the time was that it's a complaint-based bylaw. So if someone comes forward and complains, then the bylaw enforcement officer will move on.
You should be going to the person who owns the property. Not to the person who he's having a conflict with beside him. He doesn't get along with them. It's not my problem. It's not your problem. It's a domestic problem. No, we're seeing it. They got a $400,000 camp there. He doesn't want a trailer beside him. I understand that. But he wasn't the one who built the road. I built the road. I built the infrastructure to get there. I spent my money to get there. These people are dictating to you, to me. I don't want him beside me. You can't do that today. That's racism. That's gone on now. We've got to get along. We see that. And you're not helping with your bylaw. Definitely not. I'll leave it there, and I think there's lots of people here who feel the same way, and probably more. Let them speak.
Sure.
No, we have to bring this up.
Well, I agree.
Why is it just coming out now, Danny? That bylaw's been in existence long before us.
Yeah.
Until you put it in motion.
No, we didn't put it in motion.
You did.
The resident put it in motion.
You put it in motion when you sent a bylaw officer to put a ticket on my trailer.
Because that's his job. If you make a complaint against somebody, then he has to do that job.
Why didn't he do his job and go ticket the rest of them?
Because he never got a complaint.
Oh, my stars. There you go. I'll just rest my case there.
You can rest your case all you want. I'm just saying, he only acts when he receives a complaint.
You lived in Walford for a long time.
Yes, I
And now you
have,
come
and I
back
still live there.
and you're not helping the people. You're
Oh,
gonna
it's
block
not
us.
right. And how am I not helping the people?
Because-
I didn't make the bylaw, I'm just trying to abide by it.
You're trying to abide by the bylaw.
Do I rent out trailers on my empty property? No, I don't.
You got an extra trailer in your yard. That's against the bylaw.
What trailer do I have in my
You
yard?
got trailers in your yard.
I don't have a trailer.
Oh, maybe not today, though.
No, there's no trailer in my yard.
There's a lot of people here with an extra trailer and have a family.
I'm just saying, you can't just ignore a bylaw that's been in existence. It takes some work to either get rid of it or change it or whatever. It's not gonna happen overnight. And we didn't make the bylaw, so we have to do a lot of research and find out the history, how the bylaw came to be.
Well, Les, were you even in power when the bylaw was to be?
Yeah. Danny, when you talked about this on April 13th there, I told council we better discuss this there. We haven't discussed this at all.
Why?
Yeah, and you're talking about assessment there. If you're on the waterfront there and you own a lot there, say 4 acres there, you're paying an assessment of around $200,000 to $300,000 for that 2 or 3 acres property. There's taxes on that there. So don't somebody say they're not paying taxes on to park their trailer, because they are.
Well, we're all paying taxes.
I totally agree with you, Danny, there, and we should have did something about this there last fall when it was brought to our attention. But we just sat back there and waited there and let the storm hit.
Les, you never said to discuss it in a meeting.
Yes, we did.
You cannot lie.
We did so.
No.
Yeah.
I think we need to get to the bottom of it and let the people speak for themselves. And I think council needs to throw that bylaw right out the door until you figure out something else.
I agree.
I rest my case, and I think other people should come and speak. Thank you very much, council.
What is running? Somebody's phone. Turn your phone off.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak about this here, please?
I first of all want to know why that gentleman over there, when the whole thing was brought up, he said, I thought, it wasn't council thought, it wasn't we thought, it was I thought that this would be a good move. I want to know why that.
No, he didn't say that.
Oh, yes, he did.
I think they're not.
I'd also like to know who you are.
Cheryl Phillips, and I live in Walford and have all my life.
Good for you.
And the bylaw came to be before we were ever on council, and there has never been a word said about it until now, when somebody sets up.
Okay, well, I think the board will go with the rest of us, so.
Just to clarify, at a council meeting, I brought up the fact that perhaps we should have an allocation for someone that wants to park a trailer on vacant land.
So because
They
you
own the
thought-
land. It's not vacant. They own that.
I
You
know.
know, why are they just trying to
Okay.
pay taxes?
Okay, one talk, please.
Okay, well, like I said, so because you thought that, well, I think this bylaw is complete garbage, does anybody else agree?
I agree.
Yeah, so there you go, I thought that, so.
So it should make a difference, right?
You should have a vote.
Because she
Okay,
said it.
okay.
All right.
There's a young lady who wants to talk here. Please, go ahead there.
Thank you. So my name is Alicia Roy now. I am LaShawn. I am one of Danny's renters. My family has been renting on Danny's property for 13 years. I have 3 children. We are from Sudbury. We can't afford a camp of our own, unfortunately, and Danny has been gracious enough and his wife to rent the spot to us. We have never been bothered. This last year, we got notices in a very unprofessional manner in which I submitted a letter to council and did not get any word back. That was last year. We want follow-up. This bylaw is affecting a lot of people. And last I checked, municipalities only have to make bylaws, only can make bylaws on municipal land, not on private property. So I think council should look into a document from the Landowners Association of Ontario. I don't know if it's been provided to you or not.
Yes, it has.
Okay? Those have gone to the Supreme Court. So I'm just saying, it would be in your best interest to take this a little seriously. Yes, the bylaw was created before your time, I understand that, but it's against the law to enforce a bylaw on one person and not on everybody. And you are affecting families. We come here, we spend revenue at the marina. My father has a big boat, he launches it there often. We go to the stores, we go to the Massey Fair. We do a lot here. My father is from Massey, born and raised, and this is what we call home. Okay, so unfortunately, this bylaw is affecting a lot of people and a lot of families, and we like this town and we would like to stay here. So I guess that's it. I'd just like to thank you for your consideration and hopefully you will amend this bylaw.
At the end of the weekend or the end of the stay, what do you do with your waste and your garbage?
The waste, we have taken it to the dump, but we usually take it home. We have a recyclable bin we take home. We are responsible, very responsible tenants. Actually, myself and my father work for a property management company, so our waste we can remove there when we go back to Sudbury.
And that's what everybody else does there, they will leave it there.
Everybody else has been respectful. It's been the same bunch for quite some time.
How about the biological waste?
Biological waste, we do have an outhouse. Yeah.
I think, thank you so
Pumped out
much.
every fall and every spring.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing that. We are all aware of that too, and I think, we have, maybe not done it formally, but we certainly have discussed, how the, I know you haven't, how the bylaw, it's such a, it's something that needs to be, like you said, amended. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's because it was complaint based, and then you brought up a good example, it might have been more of a finger pointing basis rather than a legitimate issue, problem. So I do know that the council members have said, oh yeah, you know, we have to do something, but how do we do it for those that, and I'm gonna call you, responsible campgrounds, responsible places that are clean, and still, like, what about the ones that aren't? Like, that is where the process of coming up with the bylaw, that it's suitable, fair, objective, and not just picking on individuals, especially when, like you said, you've got 13 years track history, for example. Like, really, you have a 13, that's a decade of track history. And then we have ones that are a disaster. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Everybody here, I'm sure, has driven around and seen the trailers that are broken down, abandoned, they leave the garbage. So I think it's just a thing we're trying to work through. Like, I know when I drive to work every day, I pass a place that is fine. The garbage is all left there, and I'm not sure how that will be taken
But
care
it's
of.
private property, right? Unfortunately.
It is, but I do believe there's still some standards environmentally because of,
That's when the health unit would get involved.
exactly, and I know in some places, it was called by other residents
Yeah.
due to really, so they definitely, we all definitely want to make it an amicable decision. It's definitely not something that's going to go away.
And get rid of the bylaw.
And yeah, amend it, I think you're right, because yeah.
But it needs to be done in a timely fashion. Like Danny said, we're sitting there waiting with our trailers, not knowing what we're doing. Our trailers were just vandalized because they had to be moved off the lot. 2 trailers.
Yeah.
And, I mean, each year we have to move them up and off the lot. You know, they're just open for more vandalization.
So you had vandalism problem.
Last week, yes. So, and the OPP were called, and it wasn't just our property, it was another one as well. So, I mean, where we were, it would have been protected because it was down past the gate, right? It's just, there's, like I said, there's families coming, there's families involved that are being affected by this. And if you're imposing it on one person, you have to impose it on everybody. You can't just pick on Danny and his renters because there was a complaint. You have to impose it on everybody. And what I hear is nobody's in agreement to this. So I'm going to walk away from the podium. I'm super shy, but thank you.
Thank you.
You want to
I have
come
a
forward,
question,
please?
no, I can talk on that. I have a question. You said you guys were supposed to discuss this, and I watched the council meeting. She's saying, no, you weren't. Why are you sitting on your hands? Discuss it. If he's looking after the septic stuff, and that, he's not doing nothing wrong. My property, when I bought it, I got a trailer there, and I was told word of mouth, because you could trust people back then, 14 days you could stay here, you have to go home a day, then you can come back, even though you own the property. I don't know if that's true or not, we never stayed more than 14 days. But the ministry, I think, is 21 on Crown Land. Why are you sitting on your hands? Have a meeting, straighten it out with this man, and then we all know, and get rid of that bylaw. We're paying taxes on this. Enough taxes. Lots of taxes.
Too much.
Like, get off your hands, get the meeting going.
But I'm going to remove it
We're
now.
paying you guys good money. Let's get on their balls, get going.
It's not just Danny's problem, there's other ones there as well, having moved.
Okay, well, the lady over there, she talked to the meeting before on council, I seen it there, about somebody pooping beside the trailer. Deal with that person. Don't go blame Danny Duff or Al Schwartz or Dale Rivers or somebody. Deal with that
That
person.
was dealt with as
The
a,
damage
because the
done to
bylaw
those
was
trailers,
a
they
complaint
need to be
oriented
reimbursed.
bylaw.
You know what I mean? Like the lady's spending all kinds of money here. We're spending money.
And eventually there, that trailer ends up to be a gosh darn house built there too. We see that happening as well.
More taxes for you?
Well, there you
I
go.
totally agree with you.
Well, let's make a motion right now.
Can I just say something? I worked with a gentleman who bought a piece of property on the Spanish River. Okay? He bought a big trailer. He was gonna put it on this property while he worked on the land. And he was gonna clear it. And they told him, absolutely not, you can't have a trailer on the property. What did he do? What did he do? He sold the property, he moved someplace else.
Yep.
So, where's your tax dollar gone? It just left. So, I don't understand why you would even think about that. I mean, any responsible person who was putting a trailer on a property, was planning on building, first thing he would do is clear the land. Second thing, he would put in a sewage system. When that sewage system is put in place, then he's still living in the trailer. He puts in a lift pump, sends it to the sewage system, anything that's generated in that trailer. Okay? But just to turn around and say, no, you can't have a trailer. And I know this guy, personally, I worked with him for 15 years. That's all I'm going to say.
I've got something to say. You mentioned about the garbage being left there, and yeah, that's happening. But I bet you, my dollar, that those are people that don't own that property. They're in Crown land or they're encroaching or something. Those are the people that don't give a damn. Because it's not their property. People who own a piece of property don't poop on their property. Excuse me, I'm talking. People who own pieces of property respect the property, especially if it's on a lake. They take their children there. They don't poop beside trailers and leave their garbage. They clean it up. I go to some of these trailers. I have friends with these trailers. I have relatives with families. They take their children there. Those children are learning how to live in a beautiful place, how to fish, how to swim, how to safely have a campfire, what this bug is, what that bird is. These are families who own a piece of property, for God's sakes. The ones that are trashing it, deal with them. And I would bet you they don't own the property.
The place that I spoke of is in Beauchamp.
I'm sorry I got angry, but this is just...
It was on private property, it was not town land.
Well, deal with the problem.
It was, because like I said, when the ratepayer called me about that to complain, I said, your only thing is a complaint-based bylaw that's in effect for trailers at this time. So she did file it solely on that complaint, and they both, the two circumstances were private property. They weren't town land, and it's unfortunate because that is the example of the
That's
blanketing.
one example. You're going to punish all these people because of that person?
No, that's what I'm saying, is that's an example of where the blanketing of the bylaw doesn't work.
There you go. Get off your hands. Get going on it. Have a meeting. You guys get paid good money.
Yeah, Danny, coming forward here, please.
I think everybody here is here for one reason, and we see the reason. And I think it's a good time to amend the bylaw, and if you want to review it, do it. But let the people go back where they were until you make a rule. You haven't made a rule, Les. In 8 months, you haven't made a rule.
I totally agree with you.
Let the people alone. They're speaking here. And I think amend it immediately. Let it go.
You gave that report there about 30, 40 pages. Where did you acquire this from?
I can give you 10 more if you want.
But no. I want to make sure council there knows that.
It comes from Supreme Court of Canada. That's where it came from. And you see that it was judged before. Not far away. And it was beaten. No. A bylaw is a law. You are making a law just like me. I can make a law for you, Les. I'm going to charge you for breathing air. And you're doing the same thing to us. You are. Thank you.
And I'm
everyone. This is my first council meeting. I'm just moving to this area, and I'm enjoying the discussion, and I'm really happy to see a passionate group of people here standing up for their rights. What I'm really curious about is the Municipal Affairs and Housing Ministry is responsible for the Planning Act. And within that Planning Act, it asks townships and municipal councils to really undergo processes that are transparent and open and accessible to their constituents. And it's really unnerving when I hear, I made a bylaw, I made a bylaw. And I'd really like to understand what your engagement process is, how you engage your public, us, your taxpayers, when you come up with bylaws. And just so that there's some clarity, because I think a lot of people in this room didn't even know this bylaw existed. So that's my question. And what's the consultation process when you decide to make changes to bylaws? Thanks.
But if you read this report there, it says there on private property, there we can't make a bylaw to enforce something on private property.
That's right.
That's right. That's how
And
it
the
should
judge, because you're violating his constitutional rights, it's a charter of rights. You can't force
You
something
said it
unless you
yourself.
go right clean across the board, to everyone.
Okay. Councils, what do you want to do?
Amend it.
All we're talking about council.
Use work for us.
No, but we got to get in some idea before they, we want to talk about it there? Or what do you want to do?
Well, there's a process.
I totally understand that.
And what is
I
it?
don't know, that's up to.
What's the process?
What's the process?
The process is to come up with some kind of agreement to satisfy
The
all,
people
there's
on the
hundreds
committee.
of trailers in our township. I drive by them every day. I never gave
We're in Northern Ontario.
I never gave it a second thought. I wasn't here when we initiated this bylaw. And there's definitely room to improve on this. Like, but to just say, let it be, everybody can put a trailer anywhere they want, anytime, I don't know about that.
We just wanted to represent the other side of the story.
Quiet, please.
We live on River Road, and we have noticed a dramatic increase on lots being sold and multiple trailers, not just one or two for private purposes. That's not a problem at all. We want people to enjoy our area as well. But when you see many, and if you take a ride up the river, it's pretty sad to see the multiple lots being sold and put multiple trailers on, and people that are not from our community. Weekend warriors. Are you almost afraid to let your kids ride the bike down the back road because they drive really fast? So we do think that it should not just be changed dramatically at a quick meeting. I feel deeply for you. I do. But on the other side of the story is you have properties being sold at a price that is very exciting for Southern Ontario people, and they are coming up and they are putting on multiple trailers. And I don't know what's happening with the subject. And I don't know, and I do like the rule that you do need a permanent dwelling on it. Because it kind of does commit the person to investing in our community and establishing roots there, not just set up trailers for a couple months in the summer and to go. So there's the other side. I do feel for people who are losing income.
It's their property.
Yeah. And
You can how you want to.
we're not in disagreement.
Let the ladies at the podium speak.
We are not in disagreement with private property. We enjoy property the way we like to enjoy it as well, and we wouldn't say that to anybody else. But when you do see trailers, like come on,
So just as an example, I'm born and raised here in Massey. I've lived here all my life. And I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. We live in a beautiful community. We live on the river. And that's where we've chosen to raise our family. When we bought our property and built our home, we were in a very rural setting. We had no neighbors. And we actually purchased the lot beside us because we didn't want an adjacent neighbor there. Now we are surrounded from like 6
100 feet from our property line, we have, at the moment, there are 10 camper trailers and 5 bunkies over the spread of 3 lots. That's 600 feet from our property line. A lot of these people are families, and they come for the weekend, they enjoy time there with their family, but there's also partying, there's people drinking. We know they're driving home intoxicated. Our kids are on the road. And we just, I don't know, like, I feel for you guys, like it's, I get it, it's.
I asked the question, are these zoned residential areas? Are these zoned trailer parks? Like, is there an application fee if it's going to be multiple trailers? Should there not be an application process to that? Or should, I do think it warrants further investigation and conversation. And we did want you to see the other side of the story. And ever just a quick boat ride down the river, it shows you exactly what's happening. So,
Okay, any other questions there for? Okay, council discusses their ASAP there and come back with a.
I just have a question. All these properties, I'm new to this area too, and all these properties, you say you pay taxes. Do you pay taxes on your one piece of property?
Yes, I pay taxes on 3 pieces of property.
Okay, so at my house, I have 2 lots. I have to pay for my property taxes, plus anything that's on it. A house, a garage. You're paying for taxes for your land, but you're not paying for all the different trailers on there. Why can the council not add to the, instead of his taxes being, say it's $200 a year, add $100 for every trailer? He's got 5 trailers, now he's gotta pay $700.
No.
Well, no, yeah, that's no to you.
No.
It's not a permanent structure, it's on wheels.
It doesn't matter. Okay, that's all I was asking. Oh, no, like, do you register that as a business?
I registered that, and I don't charge these people very little money to stay there.
That was the question. Do you run this as a business?
I do.
Okay, so do you pay business taxes to them?
I don't,
Why
because
don't
it's
you?
my investment, not theirs.
But you're still running a business on your property.
I started this project many years ago,
Okay,
and I spent a lot of money there, more than you would spend.
okay.
And when I got to the first place, I sold a piece of land, okay? And the guy built a house. So what do you think is gonna happen, Les and council? The next piece of land, the roads are getting there, the next house will be sold.
Right.
And who gains? Right here.
Yeah, they do.
They do.
But they're losing on you because all you're putting is small. I know.
How long now?
I bet you I pay more house taxes than all of you.
I have a
You pay more taxes than all of them.
Charlie,
It says that I can't have.
You're picking on one person.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. That wasn't my intention.
okay, Charlie, you got a comment there before we end this?
Yes, but my problem is, it says I can't have 2 trailers on my property. I understand why that's in there, but in my case, for instance, I was thinking about buying an old, smaller trailer to take moose hunting. Don't want to drag my nice trailer up in the bush. But if you have that bylaw being enforced as such, I can't do that. And I mean, I got a whole farm to put that 2 trailers on, it wouldn't bother anybody.
Well, you were on council, Charlie, when this bylaw was made.
I certainly did, but I was opposed to the person that we have as a bylaw enforcement officer. I was opposed to him when he was a dog catcher, and I was opposed to it.
Okay, Charlie.
It's not a personal thing.
Okay.
Well, it's not personal.
Thank you, Charlie.
Okay.
Can I say, can I have a word?
Yeah. the last there, please, sir.
Step up, Bill.
I was involved with Friends of the Spanish River for about 14 years. And many people, business and individuals, and federal, provincial, municipal governments, and the government of the United States. I worked for the President of the United States, and I worked for the Prime Minister of Canada. Les will tell you, we grew up on River Road. It used to be an open sewer. Okay. Now, a lot of people have done a lot of work, it's got a huge amount of money to improve the Spanish River, and we're all benefiting. I've been here 30 years. I consider myself a newcomer, but it is an absolutely stunning place to live. So here we are. We're all enjoying it in our own way, within our own resources. And I think if we take the big picture, let's all work together. And I think that the bylaw consideration is just one of the tools to make sure the river is respected.
But it affects all of us. Even if we don't live on the river, it's affecting us.
I think everybody, every means, whether you don't have much or whether you have a lot, has the right to enjoy the river. I just think that the rules need to be transparent and they need to be level. And that's where these people can sit down and work with the community representatives.
They work with the community at all.
I think you have to take the community. So I just wanted to say, let's continue to enjoy the river. And I hear the panel are really running really well.
Last comment, Danny, there.
We're seeing the Spanish River. You know yourself, we're a big township, very big township. There's a lot of trailers in that bush over there, in that bush hunting, and there's monkeys over there, and they're all landowners. Everybody's affected here, not just the Spanish River. And if we brought all these people to the Spanish River, like I know there's a lot of people coming here, but every one of you are benefiting from the money that's coming here. And if you're going to say, we're going to stop this, you're going to stop a lot of income here. A lot of income. And a lot of people will say, hell with that, I'll go somewhere else and live, or find a spot.
Yeah.
And they will.
Everybody moving out.
No, we need to work together. I give you 8 months. 8 months to come up with something. Every time I watch you on council, we're not dealing with that. You can't do that to the people. No. It's time. We want to be there. I'm empty. My people got vandalized this week because they're not inside a security gate. We're just trying to, everybody be happy. Nobody's getting murdered. This isn't downtown Toronto. We're happy here. People are responsible.
And the police are not involved in your property, so we
No,
know.
the bylaw, sir, yes. Stupid bylaw that you made.
Okay. Can council there get back to Danny within a week there? We'll talk
week?
about this.
No.
Well,
Tonight. A week.
okay, what do you want to do? You want to pass it there? Or change it?
No.
Amend it.
Amend it. No, it's not gonna get amended.
You gotta have an answer for Danny. If you don't want to do nothing, you gotta tell Danny.
Okay, I would like to say to Mr. Stuff, you rent that land to those people?
I rent land, yes I do. I rent land to farmers too. I am a farmer. I'm just like Charlie Smith. I plant crops, thousands of dollars this year, to feed probably a lot of you people.
Oh, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Oh, my.
Oh, there you go. That's the way you think.
Nice.
No, that's not nice.
Anyway.
We are building, I'm building economic development myself. You're not helping. Where's your economic development? You didn't build any.
I like that.
This is not nice what you're imposing on our people. It's not nice. You're choosing who live beside you? You are.
Would you let me finish speaking, please?
I think right now, the world's not a nice place. Very not a nice place. I don't even own a trailer. I don't. But I keep pushing for people to come. And they will come. We did build it. I built it. You chased them all away. You did. With your bylaw.
Okay. Pat, you got a comment you want to make?
Well, I just wanted to say that I just was wanting to know if Mr. Duck rents these properties out to these people at so much a month, right?
No.
No?
It's a season, it's very minimal, and Danny spends a lot of money maintaining the road to keep it there.
Okay.
We spend a lot of time keeping it up and helping us keep it up.
Pretty much, she's not making a giant profit. So
Okay.
charging the seasonal fee would be.
I don't think that's any of your business.
I agree. It's nobody's problem.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Kevin, you got any comment there?
We need to do something to deal with this. I mean, it's not gonna happen in a week.
That's right.
It has to be, it has, no, it can't happen tonight. It has to be posted, it has to be.
8 months and you haven't figured it out yet? 8 months.
Okay.
Last discussion that council had, they
Kevin,
wanted
I
to
think
leave
you
it
gotta
as
take the time to do it, it won't happen tonight. You gotta take the time, because you got apples and oranges, you got people with one trailer, and you got Mr. Duff, which is, he's doing it right, he's got the stuff, he's got whatever. That's two different entities there.
You can't put us all in one.
Paint us all with the same brush,
No.
that's chaos, because you've got trailers, like he said, everywhere. So who's gonna go and say, okay, Dale, get yours off, Al, get yours off, you, Mr. Mayhew, get yours off. And then he's gonna sit over there and say, ha, ha, ha. You're gonna cause trouble. So take this apples and oranges and do it right. Take your time, but don't sit on your hands forever.
Dale, your comment there?
Yeah, my suggestion is we reel in the building inspector and the bylaw officer and leave this settled until we get something resolved in the form of an amendment. Because right now, everybody's upset and I don't blame them.
Here, here.
Bobby?
Last I was in that meeting for the official plan, there was nothing resolved with that. All our official plans were thrown out. That's illegal, really, but I was in the first meeting, and you're allowed 2 trailers on your property with no, as long as you're using it for personal use. And that's all that was said in that first official, in 2010. So I don't know why it's getting the other way.
No, I just couldn't hear him.
Well, back in 2010.
Yeah, no, I just leaned over to
Yeah.
see better, so
Okay.
yeah.
But that's what was said in the council meeting in 2010. And it wasn't an affects of personal property with 2 trailers on it. And now we're going the other way. You were in that building, Pat, he was, so was Charlie. Right? So, I mean, I know who was there. So that's why I'm saying, why are we getting like this now? Because everybody else is doing it around us?
It never would have come forward, Danny, if a neighbor and to neighbor didn't have an argument.
No, but every other township around us
Yeah.
is doing this. So is it something that the municipalities are trying to get more money with, or what? That's what I'm asking.
Radio City Sudbury doesn't have a law like that. Because my brother's right on one of the day late, and he called because the guy had 8 trailers on his property, and the city said, there's nothing we can do.
Because it's private.
It's private property.
And that's how it
So
should
if they know what they're doing, maybe you guys should look into what you're doing here, because like I said, you're violating his charter of rights by taking on him. And not, you've got to make it an even playing field right across the board, everywhere, not just in there. And that's what's happening here.
gotta do something about this there, and,
Yeah.
Well, you haven't did anything in 8 months, but I'm not gonna expect you're gonna do anything tomorrow.
I know.
Definitely, you were seeing the voice of the people. It's not just me involved here.
I know.
Okay.
You're the one that brought it forward there, thank goodness you did, because there's other people who are involved in that.
Can you not temporarily call off the dogs on this whole bylaw for now?
Until they figure it out.
So everything's locked out and maybe come up with an end and
Before
then.
it passed again, you bring it to us.
But if it's that old of a bylaw, I find it really weird that my daughter bought property, just property. And it was only a few years ago. She was not told that she couldn't put a trailer on it, much less two, or, you know. She wasn't told that. So now all of a sudden, she's got to vacate, and tell her children that? So why can we not tonight say, let's just take this bylaw and, you know, call the dogs off? And you guys can take all the time you want to work at it.
No. They said a week will be your next Wednesday.
We're not here next Wednesday.
Les, when you do come up with something, are you gonna have a meeting to tell the people, or just gonna just say, here's the bylaw?
Well, we gotta come.
We gotta have a discussion.
Yeah, you gotta have the people involved there, because we see
Well,
what's.
everybody's involved here.
Okay, just,
We want it gone.
You've heard it from us, like, come on. We pay your wages, so.
Okay, and.
Watch it, come up with their idea.
Yeah, and in regards to this there, where is our next step?
I'd like to see us bring in our planning consultant to give us some advice as to how to proceed. This is part of the official plan, which would require an official plan amendment. There is legislative process. We can't just pass a bylaw and change it. There is notice, public meetings are required in order to do this. So that would be our first step, is to see when they are available to come and discuss this with council. I don't know if they could make the June 8th meeting, but possibly the June 22nd.
Have the summer gone.
Have the summer.
Yeah.
Put a motion on the table not to enforce it until it's looked at. You guys open yourself up to a lot of legalities. I suggest you get a solicitor in to look at that official plan. Because if you look at the document it's getting submitted, that's from the Landowners Association of Ontario. That's been made with actual lawyers quoting the Supreme Court ruling. So you cannot trust the Supreme Court ruling. You need to get legal advice. That official plan, regardless if you make it or not, is illegal.
Okay.
And the only ones that are gonna suffer are the taxpayers. If somebody comes here and sues the township, you're not gonna pay out of your pocket, the taxpayer's gonna pay.
Yeah.
Nobody else.
Okay, and you'll get a hold of them people there, ASAP there, and see here.
Where can I get a copy of that bylaw? I've been trying to get a copy and I haven't been able to.
It's hidden on their website.
Very good. I couldn't find it. I don't.
Okay.
I know Ann answered the questions in the crowd, quite effectively.
You got a comment you want to make, or?
No, I was gonna help answer and offer the answers that
Les, can I say a word? I have property on the lake and stuff too. And I don't know if I would want a lot next door to me with 10 trailers across it. Like if it's only a small lot and stuff. Like, you gotta save some space to the people that have purchased their property and wanted their privacy and their peace. So if somebody gets a lot, small lot, and has 3 or 4 trailers and is going right to their lot lines, the next camp owner is infringed on.
I don't like my neighbors, but you think I'm gonna say like, oh, you gotta move them, you gotta give them a bylaw, because I don't like them.
I don't like where you're on.
Okay. to do some homework here, Danny, there, and we'll get back to you there.
In the meantime, can we slow down the bylaw officer then, please?
Yes, let these people relax. You guys can sit down, figure it out. I understand. We know, we have 1,400 feet of frontage. I have 1,400 feet of frontage. I have 6 trailers. You figure out the footage. There's all kinds of rules. I'm opposed to, just like you, too many in one spot. I see that's wrong. But that's your job to build the bylaw. You want to enforce the bylaw, everybody's out. That's not what we need. You see that?
It's not a good idea there. We can tell them there to back off there, but there's other people there that have got concerns there. So we better just leave it alone there, and because neighbor to neighbor's going to get involved, and
How about the other trailer over there? They're allowed to go use.
I know.
Has the bylaw enforcement officer been proceeding with this anywhere else?
I don't know.
And so the trailers on Mr. Duff's property, that's it so far, right?
I know that Jeff has sent out some correspondence. I don't know if,
That's all prior.
Okay.
Can I submit something here? Yes, you can pass this around the table, pass it back and forth. This is next to my property, that the bylaw officer was there. And I think you were in the truck that day too, Ann, on my property. On my property. And here's another one. You know what? You're picking on me. Don't pick on me. I spent too much money here. We pass it around, we can all look at it. You know, we need to deal with this, like, all of us. We need to. And my lots are nice lots. And they're all in.
All right.
They're all in, every one. Not nice. It's not nice to see Mr. LaFont get his trailer vandalized. All the windows broke, doors, $1,000. Because he's not in a secure area.
Well, the bottom line is, somebody made a bylaw 12 years ago and then we ignored it. So now we'll have to deal with it.
I don't think it was ignored, Kevin, I don't think it made.
Well, I know.
And now there's complaint. It's all part of the official plan.
Okay.
Well, maybe you should take that into consideration. He has that much footage, and he's got 6 trailers. So maybe the people on the river where Stacy was talking about, maybe they don't have the footage. Maybe you could put a number and say, hey, you got so much footage, you're allowed 4 trailers, 2 trailers, that's it. And then you're done. And then if a guy's got 500 acres, he wants 1 trailer, that's fine. If he wants his 4, that's fine. You know what I mean? But put a number, put square footage, say, if you got only this much property, this is what you're allowed or nothing.
That was one of the thoughts that came to our mind when we were discussing it.
Okay.
How many trailers do we allow on a piece of property?
Right, so why can't they do that? He's got 1,400 frontage, I don't know what he's got back. He's got 6 trailers and it's all nice and spaced out. So we'll say, okay, well, the next guy, you got 1,200 feet, you're only allowed 2 or 3, and that's it. And then police it. Once you know, say, okay.
Okay, let's start the agenda there.
We're talking the number of trailers, and we don't sometimes sound like they're running. Are we gonna say that houses can't exist beside each other?
This all burning down south.
My house is already here.
Okay. We're gonna start the agenda there too.
So we received a request from Robertson Township Fire Department on Manitoulin
Speak
Island
up.
for the donation of the former TPO tower located at Lee Valley Hall. In 2012, TPO community agreements were terminated, and as such, ownership of the towers was transferred to the municipality. As stated in his letter, Mr. McKinley says these towers are useful in helping them attain line of sight to internet providers. Robinson Township is an unorganized township on the island, and this donation would be greatly appreciated.
Can we not use that tower there for this municipality there, if we ever get high-speed internet there, and tie it to that?
Well, we have to have a provider agree to do it.
I mean, it's been sitting there since, 2012, it's been unused.
And they probably need a higher tower.
Can be any place.
If they need to know.
Okay, I'll read the resolution. Be it resolved to donate the former TPO tower located on Lee Valley Hall, 983 Lee Valley Road to the Robertson Township Fire Department, and that the removal of the tower shall be at their expense and risk. Can I move for the seconder? Kevin there?
Okay, we should have something in there that, like, these damages go pretty much.
That's what was said.
Was expense and risk, or so that's their responsibility.
Oh, okay, all right.
Cheryl, all in favor? Carrie? Seeing we got to get in the closed session, can we do it with the council vacancy at the same time here? Yes, please. Okay. Resolution reads, be it resolved that we accept the recommendation of the hiring committee to offer Linda Leesenton the administrative support position. What? Can I move in the second?
I didn't hear the whole motion.
Be it resolved that we accept the recommendation of the hiring committee to offer Linda the administrative support position.
Yes, yeah, Susan, that's not part of murdering it, but.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion.
Pat will move there, second.
Yeah, I'll make it.
All in favor? Carried.
Where?
Everybody? Are you? Good. So, purpose of me being here tonight is to, just to discuss our level of service bylaw. I know there's been some correspondence in a few of my earlier reports that,
You just need to make people there, because the other people are here.
Is that better? Just wanted to discuss the level of service bylaw wording. In July of this year, the Fire Prevention and Protection Act is changing, meaning that now fire departments throughout the province are going to be, their training and responsibilities are standardized. So that puts a little bit of pressure on especially volunteer services where we have to meet a certain level of standard. I mean, it's something that has been needed in the fire service for many years, in my opinion. I mean, coming from my background in emergency services, I mean, policing standards have been around since the early to mid 90s. And fire services, for some reason, haven't caught up. Well, 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago now, the government it kind of shot something over the bow and said, "This is coming. That prepare yourself to for standardized training." So now it's and 4 years comes along, and now the government says, "Okay, now it's time, right?" So I wanted to just kind of go over the wording, just to make sure that it falls in line with what we have now at the level of service. And it's important for councils to understand what level of service the community we have in the community, and also to just kind of keep in line with what the new standards are as of July 1st of this year. So I'm not sure, to be honest with you, what the wording is of the current bylaw. Do you have that or not? Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just, I know we are a, we're just going to switch from here. So we're an external only fire department, which means we don't train to the level of rescue. We do train to be rescued in the event that we have to do it. So it's kind of a, we're at the service level of, we fight the fire from the outside, but what we do train to fight fires inside the building and do a rescue just in case we have to at some point to make that rescue. Thankfully, we haven't had to do that, but most of our fires are fought from the exterior. So the wording of the new it's called the Mandatory Certification for Fire Protection Services. So the wording for our level of service would be, and also to add to that, the firefighting, we also do auto extrication on the highways. So there's in the table 1 of the act, it says that the new wording would be firefighter, exterior attack and auto extrication, fire suppression operations from the exterior of a building only, and auto extrication rescue. So that's that would fall in line with what we do now, but that just brings it to the more modern and to what's going to be the level of service required on July the 1st. We do have until July 1st, 2026 to meet the certification standards, which are Firefighter 1, professional qualifications, and as well auto extrication, certification in auto extrication. So as a result of this, there's been ongoing training. We basically created a training department within Sables-Spanish Fire Department. We have 8 members. We're redoing curriculum and to be able to meet these different certification levels, because at one time we were training to the international standard. Now the Ontario is adopting the NFPA, or the National Fire Protection Association level of standard, which is quite a bit higher and a lot more involved than the international standard. So that's kind of the biggest change, I think. As far as our training, we follow the international standards now. As of I guess February or March, we're switching over to the NFPA standards, and we're creating some curriculum, and that training needs to meet the department to going forward. So that's the reason why I'm here today, is just to bring our level of service bylaw in line with what's going to be happening in July of this year.
It says in that report there that the unorganized are not, don't have to abide by the conditions there?
I'm sorry?
The unorganized areas are in Ontario?
Unorganized areas? They're monitored by the Ontario Fire Marshal. So the unorganized townships are kind of on they're managed by the certain department of the Ontario Fire Marshal's Office. So they'll still have to meet those standards if they, depending on what level of service they're offering to the community.
And the reserves are under the federal government, are they gonna meet the same?
Yeah, they're in a different, the reserves are in a different act.
Your report, you mentioned that the number is down to 25 and that you suspect that you may lose more because of the new standardized training. Do you have any idea how that's going to impact you?
Yeah, I mean, it's it depends on the level of commitment we can get from firefighters, right? I mean, we've had to change. It's a huge change culturally, I think, in this department specifically. You know, we're moving from bi-weekly training. We have to move to weekly training just to be able to meet the standards. And that's not something that's not uncommon in the area. I mean, I think we're one of the only departments that train every second week. You know, we've gone to kind of standardized training across the board. We started that a few years ago when I was training officer. You know, not training specifically with, you know, with each hall, but bringing everybody together and training as a team. And that's kind of our focus going forward with training. But yeah, the level of commitment that's required is going to be a lot more, and that's going to hurt. It's going to hurt us as far as numbers. We are going to. I mean, thankfully, we haven't lost anybody yet. But I think once you know, we're getting a lot more serious with the training. It started 2 months ago, our mandatory training, and yeah, we have 52 people on paper, but realistically, I think we're probably in around 25 to 30 that are responding to calls and going to training on a regular basis.
And they're committing to weekly training of like multiple hours too.
Pardon me?
How many hours is the training that there's also?
It's weekly, so we have training weekly from it's like 7 to 9:30. It's a couple hours a week, and that's not including calls for service. I mean, average call for service over the last few years has been over 100. That's including bylaw complaints as well as the fire bylaw. That's really increased. We'll probably see it by next month because we had a steep quite a raise in the number of complaints with fire bylaw in the last little while. So.
Is this training, this weekly training, going to take place indefinitely or?
Yeah.
Indefinitely?
Yeah.
So what about somebody that comes into a new volunteer? You have to start them from scratch, or is everybody at the same stage for each week?
Yeah, good question. So what we're doing is we have like I mentioned the member training program, the member training department. What we've done is we've taken the skills, the basic skills you would need to basically have you active. So the things that we would require, not necessarily at the certification level, but at least at the level that we can get if you go on a scene and have you be functional and working with us and safely working with us. So the fact that we have like it's almost like a mini recruit course. So anybody that we bring on, I've done this, I did this 2 years ago. We did an 8-week program. I found that was a bit too long. Our training department has it down to 1 or 2 weekends. But that can be split up over the course of time, depending on the commitment. So we're getting the new people through that program a lot quicker. So and we've had just to kind of boost our morale a little bit. We have 4 applicants now. We've had our once we started our online campaign, so which is great because we've had 4 people so far apply. Good.
How are the service groups doing in our adjoining communities? Are they losing interest? I mean, it sounds like it's a heck of a commitment to be a volunteer firefighter now.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you know, when you take you had an interesting quote mentioned to me a little while back, and it said that you volunteer to be a firefighter, and now it's time to get to work. So it's a job, and it's a job in the community where it's a level of commitment for a volunteer that's is kind of amazing, really. You're relying on your local people to be an emergency service for you. Having said that, the responsibility level is very high. The training is very high. The liability is high in the township. On myself as a chief, wanting to ensure that people are properly trained, that we can have sign-offs to make sure that people meet certain qualifications. And right now, we have that, but we don't have it to the level that the government wants us to have. So that's the kind of level of commitment that we're looking for. And as we bring new people on, that's being very well explained and documented through some through our meetings and interviews with the new people, the new prospective people that they can commit, so that we just don't have not have an idea of what level of commitment's required now, and then only stay for a little while, and we don't want to put the resources into people that just can't commit.
And you say it's indefinite, so that means as everything evolves, you have to stay on top of it.
Yeah, and I mean, training, and this is my view, and this is what I'm pushing, to the officers and firefighters, is training for fire departments, especially volunteer fire departments, is crucial. It's crucial for us to train as a team to be able to. We don't get calls every day. We're not a full-time fire department, but we're expected to show up and deal with things as if we were a full-time fire department. We're only trained 2 hours a week, or previously 2 hours every 2 weeks. So we're not getting our complete department together in training previously. Now we're able to bring everyone together and train as a team, do scenarios, and do some of the more advanced type training that people are looking for, and that helps us prepare for those times when we're needed and we're in a difficult situation.
So as these people get certified, are they able to take a night off?
No, training continues. It's an ongoing thing, and it was a good. We just finished a bush firefighting course, a wildland firefighting course with the ministry, and during that course, it was called the course is named SQ 200, I think it's called. So we spent a weekend with the ministry, M&R trainers, and they taught us to go how they fight bushfires and to get us the newest techniques and that sort of thing. And it was interesting to note that no matter how long you've been on the ministry as a firefighter, you could be coming back for your 30th year. Every year you have to certify to go back and train again, just like I do. I train 4 times a year, minimum 4 times a year in my job, to be able to do what I have to do, and it's ongoing. So it's even though you train to those skills to the basic skill level, we still have to have the ability to say, yes, you can come on the scene, and I know that you can do certain tasks, and that we can sign you off as a safety factor. There's also, the Occupational Health and Safety Act, that we have to properly train and equip people to do that job, and we have to keep track of the training records and do a lot better job of being able to track that sort of thing. And that's what we're trying to improve that, and to have a safe and effective firefighter.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, be it resolved that the council has no objection to the fire department using the Redwood Every facility to hold a Father's Day barbecue and bottle drive. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Pat, there. Any
Discussion first, let's.
Yeah.
Is the walleye, the boys with the walleye marine program, are they gonna be done in there?
I have no idea.
They keep that locked.
Pardon me?
They keep that room locked. That
Okay.
room is that, I don't know where that is, so yeah.
All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that James McCafferty be appointed as volunteer firefighter at station number 2, subject to usual terms and conditions. Any concerns, anybody?
I'll move it.
Dale will move it there, seconder. Kevin, here, all in favor? Carried.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Blair.
Street repairs here.
Yeah.
Richard.
So in 2020, the Bridge and Culvert Inspection Report, prepared by Crescent, provided recommendations for repairs and maintenance on a few structures, one of them being the Bolton Street Spanish River Bridge. Our 2021 capital budget earmarked $170,000 for this project. It was deferred to 2022. At the April 27th meeting, council, we were advised that no tenders were received for the project. It was decided to remove the expansion joint and bearing maintenance portions of the contract for this year and tender out the rest. Crescent Engineering has provided the results of the tender, with only one being received in the amount of $324,900 plus HST. This tender includes a $25,000 contingency allowance. So we have some options for funding. The budget of 170 was 79,000 approximately coming from the modernization fund, and 91,000 was a carry forward from 2021, which would leave 154,900 to be funded. Our Nords funding is 118,525 each year for the next 4 years. We can earmark these funds to cover the balance of this contract and allocate future funds for next year's project, the bearings and expansion joints. The Nords fund is flexible and will allow municipalities to stack with other programs, carry over unused applications year over year, and pursue partnerships with other northern municipalities to support regional projects. So if council wants to proceed.
So for that $320,000, all he's gonna do is the decking there, clean that there, and do the
There's vegetation removal, cleaning of the bridge deck and abutments, paving of the bridge approaches, guide rail maintenance, embankment erosion control, signage installation, and other related work.
So when it comes to the bearings there, that's the biggest cost. It would be more than $500,000.
But we have no choice. It has to be fixed. So,
I mean, we have the funding.
yeah,
We
we
have
have the
everything.
funding and it has to be fixed, and that's what the portion needs to be this year. It's not like, because it's been, backed up since 2020, right? From that report, so it's already 2 years old. They told us 2 years ago that we should have.
When you're paving the approaches there, that your bearings are on the end of the approaches, or what are you gonna break new pavement there to redo the ends?
You mean the bridge expansion?
Yeah. That's what they're doing on this bridge over here. It's gonna fix it. That's a 2-year project. So we want to go ahead with it here?
We don't have really.
The only thing I was gonna ask is, how far did these tenders go, and how many people did we reach with all this work?
So it's publicly advertised in the Northeast Ontario Construction Association, with tender documents being made available to contractors. Bids were requested through the duration of the tender. A total of 4 contractors requested documents and were registered as plan takers, but only 1 came back.
So it virtually double their cost. That doesn't
And
cover.
that's only part of the job. But that's the way it is now, right? That's, how it's.
That's the new reality.
It's a new reality. Yeah. And it's not something I don't think we should postpone again.
No, we sat on our hands on the Lee Valley Bridge, and that's finally gonna get done. I wanna talk
Right.
about that after, because,
So,
Okay, let's
yeah.
talk about this first. Be it resolved that pursuant to the recommendation from Crescent Engineering, the tender received from JI Enterprises in the amount of $324,900 plus HST for the Bolton Street Bridge web width maintenance and repairs be accepted. Move on to seconder.
I'll move.
Pat and
I'll
Cheryl?
second.
Discussion on that, please?
Yeah.
Is there a time frame?
I never seen that.
I had the contract, and I have it at work, or at the office. That would have given me those deadlines. I'm sorry, I didn't see what they were.
hoping it would be this year.
Yeah, oh yeah, this year. He had told us that. Gentlemen from President Aaron.
Okay.
And that fellow there would know about what you were talking about, breaking any blacktop to get at those bearings. I'm assuming they're just gonna have to pick it up and block it and replace those parts for the. Should we speak to Crescent Engineering on it before we grant this? Just wondering if are we gonna put ourselves $40,000 or $50,000 more into the courthouse by taking the one step and doing what we thought last meeting was the right way to go about it, or 2 meetings ago?
The bearings in both should be done first and then the top there.
Well, I think it was that was what was indicated to us, that we couldn't get anything to provide.
Yeah, no, we
This year, everybody's busy because of all the catch-up that was going on because of COVID, so.
Yeah, nobody wants to do the expansion.
And the engineer said this would, first day.
Okay, then move to the second here. All in favor? Carried.
That's something we can find out if we're answers.
Yes. I'll ask,
Just to see what dollar value there's going to be for us to do it in this 2 stages, please.
Be it resolved that staff be directed to allocate a year or 2 of the road funding for the Bolton Street bridge repair, and that future allocation be used if required. Move on a second. Kevin here, Pat there, all in favor? Carried.
So our reduced load bylaw states that the Public Works Director of Operations, in consultation with council, shall determine if the road conditions warrant the removal of the load restriction prior to the 15th day of June in any year. This is just to see if council agrees that they could be lifted the 1st of June. Jock has been out and he's finding that things are shaping up well. They've been able to get on grade, and thinks that June 1st lift on the half loading would be acceptable. Yeah. It's just a kind of an agreement with him. There wasn't a motion prepared.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Jock's the boss of the roads kind of thing, so, you know, it's his call.
Yeah, so that's just his way of letting you know that that's right. We've been having calls from different contractors and that to see if they'd be able to.
I'll put it up. In regards to the sodium pump there for the Massey and water treatment plant, be it resolved that a tax expenditure request be received from Aqua to replace the sodium pump at the Massey water treatment plant at the cost of $5,190.01 be approved. Move on to second here, Kevin here. Pat, all in favor?
Councilor Natchuk asked that this next item be on the agenda, that he wrote his full bid at West End. If you want to expand on that at all?
Yeah, I received a phone call from a gentleman that lives at the west end of Wetwood, near the motel, and he would like us to have a needles reception box placed at that end of town. He said there's a lot of needles getting dropped in his area, right by the motel. And he's worried that they're right near the roadway, and he's worried that even the garbage guys, GFL guys would end up getting stuck with them, or, you know, try to clean them up or whatever. Hopefully they don't do that, but anyway, there was I got the phone call, and I just asked Ann to put it on the agenda so that we could have a discussion about it. We do know that these boxes are very, very expensive.
I'd like to know what the status is of the one by the library, how many times it's been empty.
if it could just be moved to.
Does anybody know if it's gonna happen?
Like, is it gonna sit out on the street, in the middle of nowhere type of thing?
I'm not sure what their schedule is.
By the motel, like, it's kinda sketchy about where he wants this place.
Well, yeah, he didn't give me full details, he just wanted to hope that one could be placed at the west end of Webwood.
Well, we have any
Maybe
property
just
there
do that
that we
one
use?
then.
No, I don't think we have any property there.
I did call that gentleman back as well and spoke with him, and he had said if he's going to on his property, and he didn't say that he was opposed to having them put at the end of the strip of how the motel ends, but again, that'd be something I think we'd have to find out, because then it becomes private property, right, to move it from ours to there, so I don't know.
Yeah.
If that would.
Rents.
Yeah.
Well, plus you've got somebody coming in, well,
Exactly.
they're on his
So
property.
he wants it right by the motel?
He just said he wouldn't mind, because he's finding them literally, I guess, literally. I asked if he had security cameras, if he had anything like that, and he did not. So he didn't know when it was happening now, other than it was just magically there every
Yeah, I think you'd have to check the legality, right?
Right.
Put it on
Because
private
I don't
property.
think, yeah, exactly, because I
And are
don't think the
we-
municipality, yeah,
Are we liable for it if it's on private property?
yeah, because I don't know if there's any kind of municipal property is on it.
I'm just wondering how effective the one is that we have by the library.
Yeah, like that's what I'm thinking.
Well,
Move it
how
from
do we
maybe-
know, did we get a report on that?
Yeah, because we paid for every time they dump it, is by weight.
Okay.
So part of the, and they do take pictures, because part of the problem is people put garbage in it.
Mm.
It adds to the weight, so it, and there is a regulation on how much when you go into a different standard. So there is, I can get some research, I can look up what we found before, when we were gonna do this one, and what we might have to do if we were to add one.
How to look now, if my memory serves me right, we got two of them, right? We have one for Massey and one for Webwood.
Yes.
We paid for one, and was the other one a freebie?
Yeah, well, it's supplied by DSAP or something like that.
Public
I don't know.
health, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I wonder if there's any kind of a program where we can get another one. Check it out. I'm sure it's a problem all over. But if, we gotta, like Dale says, we gotta see if the one in the library, yeah.
If it's effective or not.
If it's not,
Well, maybe.
maybe on the private. That's illegal.
I'll get some more information on it.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
I'll do it all in one motion.
In regards to economic development, parks and recreation, and welfare community centers on the one. Be resolved, the following meeting reports be accepted. Economic development, May the 17th, 2022. Parks and recreation, May the 18th, 2022. Welfare community center board, May the 19th, 2022. Anybody got any concerns they need? Move on to secretary. Pat, Jerry? Kevin? All in favor? The leak in the library, we don't know what's the problem there?
The leak, oh, that's old piping, anything from the so the central back. And I think it was condensation there in the winter. I can't see, there's nothing on the roof. So I'm thinking the fence into the attic, that's probably why condensation. So there isn't a flush.
Does that snow removal damage some shingles or something?
Well, somebody would have to take a look, but I mean, it didn't look like anything to me. There were no leaks. That was the only leak, was that pipe.
Right there.
Yeah, it was ABS, basically.
Yeah.
Not a big concern.
nobody's causing damages there, we don't want to lose
No,
infrastructure moving there. Okay, be it resolved that pursuant to section 239-2 of the Municipal Act, we move into closed session to consider personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal and local board employees, and advise that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communication necessary for that purpose with Richard Paquette in attendance. Can I go over and second it? Kevin there? Pat? All in favor? Carried.
So the
Sorry, Ricky.
Is the fire ban on or is it?
You can have campers, but they don't show up.
Can't do brush or.
Yeah.
And
And
grass.
bigger than your 2 by 2.
No brush or grass, as long as it's been closed.
Yeah.
cooking more.
You can't fire.
Yeah, campfire and chimney. Chimney is or whatever it's called.
Yeah, because lots of fires happening there.
Yeah, they put it back on Friday.
as soon as you got some rain,
Yeah, they don't want anybody.
That was in the Sudbury district. I don't know about ours.
Yeah, ours, it was on.
Oh, well, there we go.
ours was only employed by the township.
Sorry?
It was not an M and R.
No, if there was more than our township had fire.
Yeah.
Okay, in regards to the closed session, there was information only in regards to one, and there's a resolution going forward there in regards to Councillor. Be it resolved that pursuant to Council Resolution 2022-121 and Section 263-1 of the Municipal Act 2001, Council is hereby offers a vacant seat of council to Tim Weatherly to be accepted. A mover and a seconder? Kevin, Mayor, and Dale, all in favor? Carried. Tim, you'll accept it?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Looking forward. I think.
Bobby didn't warn them.
I'm not warned, no, it's the way you dip your heels, you got 2 months to figure it out.
Okay, be it resolved that time is 8:39 p.m. and this meeting be adjourned until the next regular meeting or the call of the chair. Move on to seconder. Cheryl, there.
Did you want to talk about something?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Lee Valley Bridge. Espanola is doing a lot of work on the bypass. So I mean, there's a potential there, like I don't know if Public Works spoke with Espanola on this. Close the Lee Valley Bridge to have it repaired, and we take Pleasant Valley, there could be severe traffic delays getting into Espanola from Pleasant Valley.
You can because you've got lights on top of the hill there, and how are you gonna go down there to Pleasant Valley? They had lights when I went through there a couple weeks ago, there's lights. So you sat there for 15, 20 minutes waiting for the light to change.
Well, exactly. And so we're gonna take out the Lee Valley Bridge and
You're
everything.
talking the Bolton Bridge.
What's that? No, no, no.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
talking about-
Caldwell.
I'm talking Caldwell.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yes, call it.
So there's a potential there to have a real jackpot.
It's too late in the year. That tender should be going out there in November, December there for first thing there. That contractors can get ready to bid there, like Bobby will tell you there.
Pay for the Caldwell Bridge.
Yeah,
Yeah. But when,
but put the plan in place there to have it all ready to go.
no, I mean, when we're gonna have to reroute, like, we should be talking to the other municipalities. So I don't know how that.
How long is that?
What's the timeline to have the job start on the Caldwell Bridge? Not yet? Well, maybe
I don't
they'll,
think that's even gone out.
maybe they'll be done in Espanola.
The timelines at the meeting
for the final, like, what they're gonna put out would be May with us and then out for tender in June.
Okay.
I read the agreement that council entered into with WSP. I just, yeah, in advance.
Well, we'll see how it moves, yeah.
Because you're doing a major water line.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as long as it's open, it's okay, but if you're waiting 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, it's gonna get crazy. If everybody's rerouted that way.
Just that's the highway construction. Wetwood.
Well, that too, that's everybody's shortcut right now. And I mean, I gotta say, we can't get that Caldwell Bridge changed soon enough because the transports are flying by.
I thought we had a 10.
We have a sign.
Signage is.
They don't care.
They don't care. They're doing it. So, anyway, that's all I gotta say about that.
Yeah, I received an email, and did everybody else receive an email regarding a tender from St. Denis?
Yeah,
The tax sale?
Yeah.
That's being dealt with, through the, I've gotten some advice from our solicitor, and I'll be responding to, Mrs. St. Denis tomorrow.
Could we have the floor? We've been waiting here all night.
Yeah.
It's not on the agenda, your discussion, it's up to the mayor to allow or not. I'll just say one thing though, that for council's information as well, tax sale is completely, the authority to conduct is completely the treasurer's authority. Council has no say in the process or the awarding of the tenders. It's all dictated by the legislation.
Yeah, we understand that, and we understand a little bit about how they, can I approach?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So my name is Joe Rivera. I'm a taxpayer in the town of Sables-Spanish Rivers, and I've been for 16 years. I grew up in Walford, and I hope to, God willing, die on Lee Valley Road here on the Spanish River. I was asked by Rhonda and Aaron to look at the recent tax sale of the two properties that just occurred. And Rhonda, you want to introduce yourself? Or she's shy. So she asked me to do this. And I mean, I watched the video. You're a great speaker. But anyway, we believe that the sale of the properties, according to the Municipal Act and the OREGs, as stated in the video, if you have a chance to watch the video, weren't performed, we believe, in the way that it should have been. And I've got some quick notes that I took from the video. So at 3214, the treasurer opened an envelope with proper qualifiers on the outside of the envelope, and same in the smaller envelope. And the treasurer said, and I quote, "They covered all their bases." So being a little bit of a French guy, I Googled covered all their bases. And it says to do everything necessary to be sure that something is successful, right? The Ontario Act regulations, and it was well brought up as the meeting was going on, it was beautiful for that, it said that the envelope needed to be in a sealed envelope stating the tax sale, municipal address of land, and address to the treasurer. It also says that they have to be opened in front of somebody, and I believe that you were there. And at 3 minutes, 32 seconds, it said that the tenders are to be, and this is the OREG, that OREG 18103, section 6 says that the tenders are to be opened in the order they were received at the office, right? There was 3 piles, and there was one pile for the one property, one pile for the other property, and the other pile that was questionable, right? So they didn't meet the criteria according to the OREGs because they didn't have all of the information on the outside of the envelope, right? We believe that the treasurer has the right to reject, which some were rejected, but not accept. if they weren't done, because if you said, okay, well, to me, if you said, okay, I will accept these, because I think the word was assume that there'll be the right information inside. That means that the sequence, according to the Ontario reg, will be opened as they receive them. Doesn't work no more. You see where I'm going with that?
Yes.
And Rhonda and Aaron would have had the winning bid on that property if the Ontario regulations would have been followed. Now, we've had meetings, she's had meetings, we have all this documented. At one point, the meeting was, can we meet and talk about this? And the treasurer said, well, it was her decision only. And she stood by it, and that the tenders had already been out. And then the answers were already given that there was nothing we could do. The registered letter came 2 days later, or stamped,
It was.
date stamped 2 days later.
We met with Ruth on Friday, but she said they were all gone out in the mail already. And the letter wasn't written until May the 17th on a Tuesday, and I received it on the 19th, stating we were unsuccessful.
So some envelopes that were questionable also had 2 bids from both properties, right? So that's another Ontario reg that didn't get followed. But it was all based on assumption, right? And the Ontario regs are right there, and it was all spelled out in the video. So if you could have a chance, look at this video, and it was quite clear that they didn't follow the Ontario regs. Now, a lot of communities now go digital, so there is no chance of human error. But there was a human error on this, and the people losing are my neighbors here.
We just want a reason why, like, how do you make that call on your own and override the municipal? I don't like, how is that even possible?
So Ann, you got legal advice there, and you're gonna fill them in there tomorrow then? Or do you wanna do it in open session?
Well, I mean, the question is, and the regulation says, the act says, that the envelope containing the tender is to be sealed, marked, addressed to the treasurer, identifying the property, whatever else. Was the tender for those properties in a sealed envelope marked correctly?
Right, that is correct.
They were.
But they were, inside the order, but
What
on
part of
the
the
outer.
legislation or the regulation addresses the delivery envelope?
Right. So
That's
how
what
does she
I
know
would
there
like
was a
to know.
tender in that envelope when she time and date stamped it and put it in the safe for the 4 weeks, or whenever they got it?
So the question is, what does the regulation say about the delivery envelope? Because that's your contention, is that the delivery envelope was
Two
properly
different,
marked,
yes.
right? Okay.
So the envelope itself, it came in, and it's a pure layer envelope, or whatever means, with a statement or a form, a shipping form on it.
Which I included in my email that you guys got all the documents, which I sent to Ann to forward to the counselors.
So it does say, the ad says the envelope must have, in a sealed envelope, opened in front of public, right? Stating that it's a tax sale, for what property, and addressed to the treasurer. The pure layer envelope is an envelope. Who are we to say that it's not somebody paying their plot for their, I want to get buried in Massey? How does the treasurer know what's inside the envelope? It should have been rejected immediately. Because it is an envelope. And the act clearly says the envelope must have these criteria, as you just said.
Says the envelope containing the tender. So within that envelope was an envelope sealed containing the tender, was it not? Was there an envelope inside, sealed, with all the correct information?
Okay.
Yes?
I'll give you that perhaps, but what happened to that you have to put them in order as you receive them? How does that work when you're putting a pile here saying, I assume that there'll be things in there. So it clearly states that it has to be opened in the way they were received. Do you agree that they were opened in the way they were received?
I can't speak to that.
I doubt that there's 9 or 10 or 15 altogether that came in between the other two piles. What about the tenders that came in with 2 different properties within the envelope? Clearly states that each, so there was a lot of families here. So what are we gonna do about this?
Like I said, I will respond to Mrs. St. Denis with the advice of our solicitor, and we'll go from there.
Can we, yeah, well, we'll see what happens. We'll put ourselves on the agenda for next week, or in 2 weeks from now. And, yeah, it doesn't seem fair.
Yeah, I have personally spoke to other towns and municipalities and asked them that question. I spoke to Jeremiah in Espanola, and he said, absolutely, I would have rejected that. He says, unfortunately, I'm with you on this one.
My sister-in-law is the chief financial officer of the town of Orangeville. Right away, those would have been gone. And that's the Ontario Municipal Act, OREG, and it was all read to us in that meeting. Right? So there was...
And I'm not one to fight by any means. I'm not that type of person. But when we miss out on an opportunity that may be an investment for myself or our children because of a process that was not followed properly, kind of makes me angry. So we just want to follow up with this.
We're not following the rules that we need to be, so we'll figure it out.
Well, that's just it. You either follow the rules.
Well, we did approach our solicitor, and he felt that her process was acceptable. And that's why everything proceeded with the rest of the
Right. So is there documentation to say why it was acceptable?
That's between us and our solicitor. And like I said, I will respond formally to you in writing tomorrow. And that's about all I can say tonight.
Is it possible that I ask now to be on the agenda for next council meeting, or do I have to make that call before?
Put it in writing to me if you wish to be on the next agenda. I need it in writing.
Okay.
Second Wednesday.
Okay. Just because I never got a response from you last Thursday when I emailed you, nor did the councilors get the email forwarded from you that I asked. So I personally did that myself. So I'm hoping that you'll respond to that.
Because I need to get solicitor information first before I approach council with things. I'm not going blind.
Who's your solicitor?
It's Mr. Innes.
Okay.
First name?
David. David Innes.
Where's his office?
They're located in Sudbury.
Okay, so I see there's a bit of a tie. Okay. Yeah, no, all right. So, yeah, we'll still stand on the fact that there was a few mistakes and a few oversights, and we still believe that the Ontario Land Act and the OREG weren't followed as stated in your own YouTube video. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody got anything else to say? Okay, we resolved the time is 8:55 p.m. And this meeting be adjourned on next regular meeting. Move and second. Edie, Derek, and Dale. All in favor? Carried.
Like I said,